Hey, everybody, welcome back to some constitutional chaos. We still have the lovely Noah Webster. I'm not going to pick it up, it is really that heavy. So, thus far, we have covered the introduction and everything you could possibly really need to know about Congress. I'm hoping if anybody has had any questions, please just write in the comments. I will be so happy to come back and provide any further information anyone wants. I love this, it's really fun for me. So welcome back to the Green Eye Girl podcast.
Let's go!
All right, Article 2, we are diving into executive power, i.e., the President of the United States. Let's dive in. Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold office during a term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in a manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative, or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States, shall be appointed an elector. All right, so obviously we're talking about the Electoral College at this point. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to read through it, and then we'll discuss in detail. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom at least one shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all persons voted for, and the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States of America, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of Senate and House of Representatives, open all certificates, and votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be president, if the number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no persons have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by the states, the representatives from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of member or members from 2/3 of the states, and the majority of the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of president, the person having the greatest number of votes of electors shall be vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. Obviously, this is different. The president chooses a running mate, and that's the vice president. Now, back in the day, they actually had to cooperate. So it was actually the 25th Amendment that changed the way the vice president is selected. This to me seems way more fun, and I'm just trying to picture Trump and Kamala Harris getting along. Come on, guys, that's fun. All right, so I'm gonna pause right here and talk about the Electoral College. So, in recent years, more than I ever thought I'd see in my lifetime, there's a lot of people that call for ending the Electoral College. But the founders were very, very smart in creating the Electoral College. And it's because they didn't want to see mob rule. Probably they knew enough about Rome to make sure that they didn't make those mistakes again. So I just want to put this in perspective. So I went through and I got the 5 highest population counties in the US. And then I got the population of 50 states. If you all want this, I am more than happy to scan it in, or I can just pull it up and you can screenshot it. So the 5 largest counties in the U.S. are LA County, Cook County, Harris County, Maricopa County, and Orange County. So essentially that's Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, and Anaheim, Laguna Beach, which is basically the outskirts of LA anyway. The total of those 5 counties is 27 million 227,000 people, roughly. That's a lot of people. And as we already talked, the states were all independent nations. So if we actually just did a straight majority vote for the president of the United States, just to give you perspective, those 5 counties alone, which is essentially like half of California, Chicago, Houston, and Phoenix. I've lived close to Chicago in my lifetime. I'm here to tell you I have not much in common with what goes on in the Chicago area. In my life, I've spent most of my time in rural communities, so I don't have a lot of common with the people who live in urban environments. It's not where I live at. You don't have the same kind of problems. If you travel and you're from a city and then you go somewhere out into the middle of nowhere for vacation and you start meeting people, you realize you don't have a whole lot in common with them and their lifestyle, and there's a reason why you vote different. So just those 5 counties alone could outvote 17 states. So the 17 states with the lowest population are Wyoming, Vermont, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Delaware, Montana, Rhode Island, Hawaii, Maine, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Idaho, Nebraska, New Mexico, Kansas, Mississippi, Arkansas. Mississippi, sorry. I shouldn't have gone all the way to Arkansas. So all the way through Mississippi. So basically, you would deny 17 states any vote for president whatsoever because those 5 counties could completely outweigh them. And of course, there's a whole combination. You can probably see if you screenshotted my numbers, you can see everything in here is in millions, by the way. That's why you have decimal points. If you screenshotted that, you could see that I kind of color coded and grouped together. The things that are grouped together by color are what that can outvote. So the combination of Arkansas, Iowa, Nevada, Utah, Connecticut, Oklahoma, and Oregon also outvoted. Kentucky, Louisiana, Alabama, Maryland, and South Carolina together outvoted. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Colorado, Missouri together outvoted. Indiana, Massachusetts, Tennessee outvoted. Arizona, Washington, Virginia outvoted. And it goes on and on. New Jersey and Michigan together, North Carolina and Georgia, Ohio and Illinois, Pennsylvania, and then, I mean, they could outvote New York altogether. They could outvote Florida altogether. The only things they can't outvote from those 5 counties are actually Texas and California, which obviously Houston's one of those and LA's that. So what they did in setting up the electoral college is make sure that the state playing field gets leveled. So every state is represented by population. They're also voted for by president by population. So it just takes the mob rule mentality out of it. Even at that time, there's always going to be more people in like a town than there's going to be in rural farm communities. So they took these things into account and thought through this. So anytime you see anyone, and if you've been a person who says, and the electoral college, because you're not happy with who got the most electoral votes, and you see, I think the last one I think the last one that comes to mind for me is 2016. Hillary got the majority, but Trump got the electoral votes. And that's how he became president. And that was the last time I think I saw everybody yelling about needing to end the electoral college. You don't want to, because what you do is completely take away the voice of 17 states. 17 states with cities from 4 other states that have nothing in common with the states in question that they could outvote. Our founders very deeply thought through what the choice was going to be of president and how to make sure it was actually a fair election and not just mob rule. I hope that clears that up for you. If you want more details, again, please comment. I'm happy to have that discussion or argument with anybody ever. I have lived in multiple of the states that have lower populations, have smaller populations even than some of these counties alone. But for perspective, the largest county is LA County and it's 9.6 million. 40 states actually have less than that. So LA County alone can outvote 40 different states. If that doesn't put perspective for you, if you've never been to LA County If you've been to LA County and you know you really have nothing in common with the plight of people there, your day-to-day struggle is entirely different from their day-to-day struggle, be very glad for the Electoral College. So I hope that clears that situation up, and I hope anyone who watches this and understands that never is someone who calls for the ending of the Electoral College ever. All right. Continuing on, Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. So we see this every presidential cycle. There's the vote, and then there's the electoral votes, and then there's the counting thereof. No person except a natural born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of the Constitution shall be eligible for the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible for that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States of America. So you'll notice everything else has been inhabitant. Now we have switched to resident. Resident, one who resides or dwells in a place for some time. So they don't have to be here permanently. They can have traveled, but they have to have been a resident here for 14 years. So you have to be a natural born citizen. Obviously, no one's still alive from the time the Constitution was brought together. So you have to be a natural born U.S. citizen, period. That's it. And 35 years and 14 years residing here. So you can't have gone and been an expat living over in England and start running for US president. You can't. You have to be here for 14 years. In case of the removal of president from office or his death, resignation, or inability to discharge powers or duty of the said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may by law provide the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or president shall be elected. Obviously, this has changed. Now, thanks to the 25th Amendment, we actually have the contingencies in place that happened in 1965 give a little bit more stability. The president shall, at stated times, receive for his service a compensation which shall neither be increased or diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emoluments from the United States or any of them. So he can't be making any money from a state, can't be making any other money from the US. We covered emoluments in the very first episode on Section 1. Basically, it's any kind of pay. Your salary can't sit around and be gathered for you. So whatever he comes in making is what he's going to make the whole time. They can't give him a raise. They can't take it away throughout. Before he enter the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath of affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That is where the Constitution, if you watch Inauguration Day and you actually see a president getting sworn in, that is literally penned in the Constitution. The words that he says are penned into the Constitution. All right, Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states when called into actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each executive department upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons of offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Any president who ever gets impeached, or any person who ever gets impeached, obviously that really only applies to the president. That's the one thing that cannot be pardoned. So you can't have a buddy that was president that got impeached and actually went all the way through and pardon that so that then they can hold another office, because we already discussed the only thing that's guaranteed by actual impeachment is that they can't hold any other office and they can't make any money off the United States. So there is no pardoning for those crimes. That it's just done. But I will say this, but if you recall, we talked about impeachment it's not guaranteed that the Department of Justice is going to follow up on the crimes. If the Department of Justice did follow up on the crimes and then they had federal charges laid against them, those could be pardoned. You just can't take away the impeachment, so they can't go back to holding any kind of office or civilian status or benefiting from the United States of America. If for some reason we managed to impeach a president for something, they went through the whole DOJ and got convicted, that the federal charges against them could be taken away and they could have freedom. They could not have freedom to hold office ever. Just want to make sure that's very, very clear. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges to the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the president alone, in the courts of law, and in heads of departments. So this is where we just watched all of the Senate confirmation hearings for Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so on and so forth. So all of these positions, this is where that comes from. This is why you see the proceedings that they do. It makes it so the president can't just unilaterally do things without the states actually consenting to it, because what these people do affects the state. The president shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during recesses of Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of the next session. So then it's off all through August. Okay, it's a whole vacation month essentially for them, since it's their job and not supposed to be. But if something should happen, I don't even want to put bad juju out there, but say something happened to RFK Jr. and he's out of commission, and it happens right at the beginning of August, the president can put someone to hold that position until the Senate returns to session in September and can actually hold all of the same votes and the same hearings to make that actually go through. That's all that's saying. Section 3, he shall from time to time give Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend for their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on ordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them in the case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment. He may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all officers of the United States. So this is why we have a State of the Union address. And the State of the Union address is always a set thing. This is why you saw Trump actually come and give a State of the Union that's not your usual State of the Union address. He's giving all of the updates and bringing things to their attention that he thinks need to be taken care of. I think that's the first time in my knowledge that that's happened, not at the prescribed time of the State of the Union. But this is why we have these things. Section 4, President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and all other high crimes and misdemeanors. I think that's pretty straightforward, honestly. And we already talked about how that goes down. Only the House can bring it. The Senate has to try it with the Chief Justice being in charge. And these are the things that are actually required to bring the charges: treason, bribery, and high crimes and misdemeanors. Obviously, several things have changed in that section and several have not. I hope everybody has a good understanding of the absolute importance of the Electoral College. If you don't, again, please ask any questions you got. If there's definitions in there you didn't understand, I went through too quickly, please just comment. I promise you I'll jump on, I'll explain in comments, anything you will need. But now we have Congress completely explained, presidency completely explained. Next time we'll jump into the Supreme Court and go from there. Y'all have a great day.